Alright, hello. My name is Blendy Joseph. Today I'll be doing a documentation of my History Fair project of 2021, History Fair project Debate and Diplomacy. I'll be discussing a few topics here and there, and thank you for my U.S. History Fair teacher, Mr. Macmillan, for assigning this project. So sit back, grab some snacks, because we about to get into it. Alright, so before we actually start this documentary, we first need to know what our topic is, first of all. So, is racial inequality in the criminal justice system inherited from slavery? Now first, we need to know what racial inequality is and what slavery is. And that's what we're going to get into. Those are our two topics that we're going to discuss right now, because that's what y'all need to know. Alrighty then. So, now we need to talk about what these two themes are: racial inequality and what slavery is. Now, racial inequality is the discrimination of races and ethnicities. Slavery is the enslavement of a human being against their own will. But now that we know both these topics, how does it correlate to how does it affect the criminal justice system? Now that's what we got to get deeper into. So, that's what we need to discuss. Alright, new day, same location, same documentary. So now we're actually going to discuss how slavery actually influences our society now that we have today, of 2021. Now, we all know that African Americans, they have been enslaved for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, but we need to dig a little bit more deeper of how slavery affects our criminal justice system that we have in our society today. We'll be discussing some facts. We'll be discussing everything that y'all need to know. Alright, so we go in depth with both the topics that we've discussed. We know that slavery is the enslavement of a human being against their own will, and then we know that racial inequality is basically the difference between, or the discrimination of races and ethnicities. Now, we do see racial discrimination or racial inequality really every day in our lives. Even though we might not see it, it's still alive today. And even though slavery dates back a long, long time ago, racism is still very, very much alive. So it can really affect our criminal justice system that we have now in today's society. It's influenced in a lot of ways. We're going to go in depth with these ways, and we'll show you a little bit more, with percentages, charts, and numbers and facts. Alrighty then. So, now, we are going to go in depth with our research of our documentary. Now, we are actually going to discuss what the criminal justice system exactly is, what's the perspective of it in today's society, and what's its status, and what's its perspective among other people. So, that's what we're going to get into. What are inequalities that exist in the justice system today? Let's talk about it. Now, research does state that race discrimination cases, furthermore, dropped by 61% since the last introduction of fees in the employment tribunal. Furthermore, black workers with degrees are paid 23% less on average than the white workers with degrees. Even furthermore, research states that ethnic minorities are hugely underrepresented when it comes to position of power. After slavery was abolished in 1865, southern states where more than 90% black Americans lived embraced criminal justice as a means of control. Race and criminal justice system, 1865. After slavery was abolished in 1865, southern states where more than 90% of black Americans lived embraced criminal justice as a means of racial control. Discriminatory black codes led to the imprisonment of unprecedented numbers of black men, women, and children, who were returned to slavery-like conditions through forced labor and convict leasing systems that lasted well into the 20th century. Criminal laws also were used against civil rights protesters who were denounced as lawbreakers and faced an arrest, incarceration, and police brutality. These courageous campaigns earned many victories, but policies to combat racial inequality, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964, has not targeted criminal justice, where outcomes are still impacted by the same racial bias and inequality that pervade American society. Mass incarceration today stands as a legacy of past abuses and continues to limit opportunity in our nation's most vulnerable communities. The United States has the world's highest incarceration rate. 2.3 million Americans are in prison today, fueled by the war on drugs and tough on crime, mandatory sentencing policies. Mass incarceration has clear racial impact. 70% of American prisoners are non-white. The average American has 1 in 20 chance of being imprisoned at same point in their life, but that rate is much higher for Latino men, 1 in 6, and African American men, more than 1 in 3, than for a white man, 1 in 23. Strikingly, 1 in 9 black men under 25 live under some form of restrained liberty in prison, in jail, on probation, or on parole. The desperate treatment of black Americans in the criminal justice system. Here's the overview and breakdown. The evidence for racial disparities in the criminal justice system is well documented. The disproportionate racial impact of certain laws and policies, as well as biased decision-making by justice system actors, leads to higher rates of arrest and incarceration in low-income communities of color. However, there is no evidence that these widely disproportionate rates of criminal justice contact and incarceration are making us safer. This brief presents an overview of ways in which Americans' history of racism and oppression continues to manifest in the criminal justice system, and a summary of research demonstrating how the system perpetuates the desperate treatment of black people. The evidence presented here helps account for the hugely disproportionate impact of mass incarceration on millions of black people, their families, and their communities. Alright, so let's get into the key takeaway. Racial disparities in the criminal justice system are no accident, but rather than rooted in a history of oppression and discriminatory decision-making that have deliberately targeted black people and helped create an inaccurate picture of crime that deceptively links them with criminality. Oh, there you guys are. Alright, so, hello, thank you. I want to say thank you to you all for watching my documentary. I've put hours, time, research, and work going into this History Fair project. It has been a long 3 months, but I finally finished it, and I thank you all for watching my documentary that I've put together. I really, really much appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you guys got something out of it. So, Blaine Joseph, signing off. I'll see y'all later.